We're getting up to a video that's very personal to me because it reminds me of when I had inflammatory bowel disease and when I lost hope. I understand where you're at, folks. I understand the struggles. And on this video, I want to talk about how to get better and what to do. And I know many of you at the end of your rope. You don't know what to do. And I know the thoughts that are coming in some of your heads. But I promise you there's a cure. You just have to wait. It takes time. It's not going to happen overnight. But I sit here today and I'm better today. And it was just terrible. Some of the things I had to live with and deal with. And when some of you tell me your stories, and you don't even have to tell me your stories, I understand what you're going through and what you're dealing with. As a young man at 19 years old working on Wall Street in New York City, there were situations where I didn't have a bathroom around. And I couldn't control myself. And I had accidents. And it's just a horrible thing to live with. But the good news is you can get better, folks. And I remember when I started to research and realize that there were people out there that had been healed from inflammatory bowel disease, it gave me hope. So I pray that this video gives you hope. And as you try these suggestions I'm going to give you now, many of them will help you show improvement almost immediately in your symptoms. But some of the things I'm going to tell you, you might not see those symptoms, those improvements immediately. But please don't give up, folks. Don't lose faith. Persevere, because this works. Where do you begin and what do you do? Many of you are going to the bathroom right now with sometimes less than a minute notice. Many of you have blood and mucus in your stool, and it just seems like it's never going to end. And even if you don't have anything, you're still getting cravings to go to the bathroom. Well, I remember when I was in that situation, and there were different times in my life where that happened. So the first time in my life and the first time I went through this whole idea of inflammatory bowel disease, I was a young man and I was eating the standard American diet. And as I was eating the standard American diet, I wasn't considering the connection between diet and health. I wasn't considering it. And then my doctors kept telling me there was no connection between diet and health. And I just always remember, like I said in my story, I would love this pizza, this local pizza shop near my house. I would love eating their pizza. And when my doctor would put me on a prednisone and the inflammation would go down, she said, okay, now you can eat the pizza. And I would eat it, but I was on prednisone. And I never made that connection. But every time I got off the prednisone, my condition would come back. And when my condition come back, she did say, stop eating certain things until you feel better again. I don't know where many of you are right now in your walk with ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease. I don't know if you've tried all these different diet changes or if you've tried none of them. But here's the key and here's the thing to understand. When I recommend people go on raw foods to heal from their condition, it's not wise or the best thing to have high fiber foods at this point in your walk or in this point of your situation, especially when you're in an inflammatory attack, because the fiber like scrapes the inside of the colon, and that's not good for you when that's happening, because you're not letting your body heal. It's like almost doing jumping jacks when you have a sprained ankle. So this is why people that try the raw food diet or try to include salads and things like that in your diet, they're not doing too well because they don't understand that. However, it's the enzymes in the food and the nutrients in the food that are going to help your body heal, especially the chlorophyll and the leafy greens. So I don't recommend going without salad greens. I just recommend them in a juice form or a blended form. So some of you might be in a situation where you're a child at home and your parents have control over the kitchen and the food bills, and it might make it more difficult. Some of you might be in a situation where you're a spouse trying to make food for the whole family. It might make it more difficult. We're all going to have things that can keep us from doing these things if we let it. But this is the time for us to realize where there's a will, there's a way. So what I recommend is eating soft foods, and it doesn't necessarily need to be raw foods, but it should be vegan foods. Soft foods that are vegan with no gluten in them, no wheat in them. So those are the major two rules. That they're vegan and they have no wheat. Vegan and no wheat. Those are the two main rules, and they should be soft. That's another rule. Vegan, no wheat, and soft foods. And when I say soft foods, I mean non-fibrous foods. Foods that do not have fiber in them. So these are the three main things we need to focus on. So if you want to look at it from a raw food standpoint, bananas and avocados are foods that are very soft and smooth. They're not going to be scraping the colon wall as opposed to leafy green vegetables or carrots or something like that. Now, if you have carrot juice, that's a whole different story. That's not a carrot. So from a raw food standpoint, it'd be things like bananas, not apples, I'm sorry. It would be things like bananas and avocados and nut milks. See, nuts are no good if you have inflammatory bowel disease and if you're in an attack, because the little grinding nuts can get caught in your colon and create more issues and scrape the wall. But if you're doing it in a nut milk form, then it's wonderful to get those nutrients in your body and those calories in your body at that point in that form, in a high content, easy digestible form. So the key is, and the goal is, when you have an attack of inflammatory bowel disease, is to create, it goes against everything you would teach on a normal base, but to create constipation. So when you're running to the bathroom 15 to 20 times a day, that's where you want to stop. And one of the first things you're going to be noticing when you start doing what I'm suggesting is, you're going to stop getting those urges to go to the bathroom as much. Yes, you might be going 5 or 10 times a day, but it's different than 30 times a day. You're going to notice that if you're writing down every time you get a desire to go to the bathroom and every time you actually go to the bathroom, you're going to see these things be much less when you're following these suggestions. So you want to get out of your diet all foods that are rough or hard, and you want to have soft foods. You want to have the enzymes in the foods, so you want to try not to eat too much cooked food. This is a problem. Like, some soups are good, but the enzymes are destroyed in soup. So maybe take digestive enzymes before you consume cooked foods and things like soups. So besides the raw foods, when you get into the cooked food, soups are a good thing. Steamed vegetables might be okay. So these are foods that you'd more want to stick to. But at first, the initial thing you want to do is don't do any food. Now, some of you might say, oh, I lost so much weight, and how could I go without food? I need the calories. I need to put on weight. You're going to hear me say this many times throughout this program. Don't focus on the weight right now. Right now, focus on healing and getting better. And when you get better, the weight will come back. So begin with no food. Try doing a fast. So let's say you get this program, you're in an inflammatory stage, and you want to stop. Whether you're on medication or not medication, same thing. Here's what you're going to do. I can't tell you as a doctor, I'm not a doctor, to get off your medication. That'll be in a different video, that conversation. But regardless if you continue to take the medication or not, here's what you need to do. You need to stop eating. Stop eating. Go on at least a 1-day fast. At least a 1-day fast. Now, I don't know every situation, so if you're at a certain point, massively underweight, and if you're at a real bad point where you've already been fasting or you've already been eating less, and there are extreme cases where this wouldn't always be the case. But for the majority of cases that I'm speaking to, and I know the doctors will say every case is an extreme case, but the majority of cases I'm speaking to, go on a fast. Basically, go for 1 day, and it doesn't even have to be overnight. For 1 day, from like breakfast one day to eat breakfast another day. So go the whole day, skip lunch and dinner, right? And don't eat anything. Just, you can do water, but don't have anything else. The next day, if you felt good doing it the first day, the next day you can continue that. If for whatever reason now you're in the mood for something, get a juicer and start juicing. Okay, so I recommend you start juicing. And it's important, whatever type of juicer you use, you get an extra strainer. So after you juice the food, you put the juice through a strainer to get at all the pulp possible from the food. Now, under normal circumstances, that pulp is good and healthy for your body. That's where the phytonutrients and the fibers contained and helps heal and also push out waste from the body, almost sweeping it like a broom. But when you have inflammatory bowel disease and an inflamed attack, you want to avoid the pulp. So you want to get as much of it out. So whether it be in a strainer or put it through a nut milk bag and squeeze it out, now you have the fresh juice. Now, what kind of juices? The ideal juices are going to be greens, which consists of chlorophyll. So wheatgrass is something that I used when I was going through my healing story or situation. And there's another thing called E3 Live, which is a frozen liquid algae. It has a tremendous amount of chlorophyll as well. When I talk about supplements, I'll get into that in that video. But you want to eat the juice from leafy green vegetables. So yes, we can't eat the leafy green vegetables when you're in a situation of an inflammatory attack, but the juice from those vegetables is excellent. And that should be the basis of your drinks, whether it be spinach, kale, collards, whatever. Make sure you're juicing those. Then you could do juices about anything. You could do carrot juice. A cabbage juice is very good for somebody with inflammatory bowel disease. Cabbage juice is very helpful. The red juice, beet juice, is great for sweetening up things. I find beets and apples a delicious little fruit punch you can make in general, and it's very sweet, maybe too sweet. So when you add the greens to something like that, now you have a sweet juice that tastes nice. See, the problem I find with fasting is it's not the food we miss as much as the sugar we miss. So you can still get that sugar, that natural sugar from apples and carrots and beets, and mix that in with your greens, and you start juicing. Try to go as long as you can with just doing juices. Maybe start off with 1 day and see how you feel. See if you can make it 3 days without juice. 3 days with juice. If you can make it 7 days with just juice, wonderful. Now you're going to notice some healing. You might be bleeding less or not at all. You're going to the bathroom less. And now the healing's beginning. So you started with water, and then you're doing just juices. And now, if you're in the mood for food, you can start including the nut milks. Remember, one of the keys is to constipate yourself. So what I find is an almond milk, a homemade almond milk, not the store-bought almond milk, but a homemade almond milk. And I'll put a recipe here in this program of how to make homemade almond milk, strained very well. And you take carob powder, C-A-R-O-B, carob powder, which is a wonderful, some people call it a chocolate substitute, but really carob came before chocolate, or was more well known before chocolate. And you basically sweeten, it's very sweet, so you sweeten the almond milk with the carob. And I'll put that recipe down, and it's a little constipating. So that something like that might be filling, it might fill you up, and it also might be a little constipating. So now you can start to find yourself going to the bathroom a little less often, and you're healing yourself from this, and this is, you're on the right track. So you got the almond milk you could start adding, and you could mix other nuts. Sometimes I do half almond milk and half sesame seed milk, which is basically sesame seeds and almonds strained. And I'll give those recipes. And so you got the juicing, you got the nut milks. Now, if you're really hungry, you can start adding some soft raw foods to your diet. Bananas, avocados. Now, again, you might have like a bad reaction to this at some point. Don't let that scare you. If every time you consume this, you have a bad reaction, just slow down. Slow down and go back to the previous stage or step, and maybe go back to juicing or something. But if it's just one time, let it be. But bananas, avocados, so the softer foods. Now, if you want to start cooking your food, steamed vegetables would be the way to go. Steamed vegetables or a soup. Make sure the soup doesn't have anything that is roughage in it at all, and so on. And I know. That might help. I know some people, what they take is they boil some potatoes, and the broth from that I hear is very good for ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease, and I've heard people talk about that. So these are things that'll be your basic diet. Very simple. Your fresh juices, and all of this should be really strained so there's no pulp in them. Your nut milks and your soft whole fruits and vegetables, and then your cooked fruits and vegetables. Still vegan, no wheat. This is your main part. This is the main thing you're doing. And you'll find yourself healing this way. And incorporating in this along with the supplements you're taking and the whole foods in the supplement form you're taking. For example, one of the things that'll be helpful is taking some flax seeds. You can consider this a supplement or food. Taking some flax seeds and soaking them overnight in some water. And what happens is it becomes like a gel. And if you put the right amount of water in the cup, in the morning when you wake up, you'll have like a gel consistency at the top of the cup. So drinking that gel, not the flax seeds, but drinking that water will be helpful and soothing to your body. Also, aloe vera is another food / supplement. You can take, I'll put a link below the video, but there's Aloe 1. It's Stockton Aloe, which is excellent, and I highly recommend it. And I'll have that in the supplement video as well. Another soothing liquid that's going to help your gut heal. So remember, health doesn't begin with what we add to our diet. It begins with what we eliminate. So we're eliminating those things creating the problem, and then we start seeing the healing from these things I'm talking about now. And this is the way it works. And you'll start to see the healing. You'll start to notice the healing. Now, don't get too excited and think, well, I'm healed. I can go eat something. And many of you will be deceived because you're taking medicine still. You're taking the prednisone or one of the other drugs that are supposed to reduce inflammation. And you could be deceived because you start feeling better and you think it's the food, but it's actually the medication. And then you get off the medication and you have problems again. So we'll do another video talking about when you get off medication, what to expect. But at least for a diet standpoint, this is a diet you want to get used to. And some of you might be asking yourself, am I getting the nutrients I need from these different foods? Is that enough food? Am I getting the calories I need from these types of foods? Now is not the time to be thinking about calories or weight. You always want to be thinking about nutrients, but in time, you'll be able to eat more foods and get more nutrients, and we'll look at the supplements page and take supplements to make sure you're getting what you need. Now is not the time, and we'll talk again on another video about being fit and exercising and everything else and burning calories. No, now's the time, just like your sprained ankle, is to rest and relax the inflammation. And I have to mention on this video, just like I mention always, is the mind and being de-stressed and not having a lot of stress when you're going through this process. And knowing that this is working. I know it's your urgency to look down at the bowl and not see any blood or any mucus. That might not happen for a while. Don't get impatient. Or it might happen and then it might come back again, and you don't get impatient or nervous. This really does work. And whatever diet you decide to eat on later, and we'll talk about that when you're in remission, fine, but for now, stick to the foods I'm recommending and the things I'm recommending. And in time, you can slowly but surely start eating more foods, keeping in mind until you're completely healed. Stick to the softer foods and also the enzymes you want in the food. And you've already eaten some cooked, you should take the enzyme supplements to help your body to digest the food. And just think about that ankle healing. Think about your stomach healing. You do have control over every time you put food in your mouth. You have control. There's damage going on. So you want to be careful what you're putting in your mouth. You know, the digestive tract, whether it's from up here all the way through, is a very complex system. And there's certain things that will make it or help support it. But most things that are bought in the store today will not help it or support it. We don't have to worry about most of those things. People ask me, will I be able to go back and eat the way I was eating before I got sick? Chances are you won't want to, because that's most likely, to a degree, what might have gotten you sick to begin with. I understand, because I used to eat my particular diet, and then I had to change everything. And I struggled with it. I didn't get better the first time I tried to get better. I still struggled with it, and I had more attacks. It took me several years before I was completely better and healed, and I wasn't getting attacks anymore. And at any point, once you are better, you want to, stay on the maintenance diet that I talk about. Because you never know, if it's a remission or a cure. As long as you don't have it, who cares, right? As long as you're not having the symptoms, you'll be fine. Some people say, well, you got to eat that strict diet. No, I got to eat that healthy diet. But you got to eat that healthy diet. You're reduced to eating only healthy foods. Exactly. I don't want to deal with inflammatory bowel disease or any disease ever again. But getting back to the foods we should eat. It's important when you do eat food, if you are eating those soft steamed vegetables, even those avocados and other soft foods, you want to make sure you're chewing them until you're liquefying them in your mouth. One of the greatest tragedies when it comes to diet, and one of the reasons people do not have good digestion, is they're not chewing their food well enough. You have to understand there's an enzyme in your saliva that helps break down the food before it gets to your stomach. So we need to be quiet in our speaking, and we need to chew our food well enough till it's liquefied in our mouth. And that's when we swallow it. And that might take chewing it many more times than we're used to. And it's important to be in the right environment when you are eating, because if you're driving and eating, or if you're talking when eating, or on the phone when eating, you can forget to chew your food well enough. So whatever you do from now on, please make sure you're chewing your food well enough and liquefying it. Liquefying it in your mouth and then swallowing it. You want to mix your saliva with your food. No matter what you do in life, mix your saliva with your food, no matter what stage you're in. And it's always going to improve your digestion. But now more than ever, you want your digestion to be the best possible. So the best thing is to water fast, and then juice fast, and then start eating a soft raw food, and then maybe soft whole foods. You want to avoid the animal products, and the animals as well. You want to avoid wheat or wheat gluten, and anything to do with wheat. Probably want to avoid processed bread or processed sugar. So white flour and white sugar, at this point, you want to do your best to avoid those different things. Now, I know some of you might have heard somebody that got better from eating something I tell you not to eat. I'll never forget when I was at the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation, when I was 19 years old. Somebody was suggestion, I might have been 20 years old, I'll never forget. They were leading the group. I had already been going to Hippocrates Health Institute, a world-class health spa, and getting better, and excited to tell the world about this diet change. And this person was leading the group for the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation chapter here in West Palm Beach. And the leader said, diet has nothing to do with it. The only thing I could eat to stop a flare is pepperoni pizza. I'll never forget that. He said, there's nothing else. Everything else I eat goes right through me. And I see blood immediately. The only thing that helps me is pepperoni pizza. That's what he said. And I was going out of my mind because I knew all this stuff about food and diet. I had just learned this. And I'm thinking, look, even if that doesn't bother your colitis, you're killing yourself with that. So if you do eat something that you know you shouldn't be eating, like ice cream, actually there's raw foods ice cream. Another great thing, banana ice cream would be nice, but you don't want to eat anything too cold when at this stage. But in general, it's nice. But whatever you're eating, if you can eat it and not feel bad and get away with it, don't think that now you found the answer and that food is good for you. No, it doesn't work that way. That's the deception. That's the problem. So you want to make sure that you just eat those small amount of foods I told you about. Keep a diary of what you're eating, how much you're eating, and when you're eating. You can get one of these fancy diaries, but you can just get a notebook and just write it down, the date and the time you've eaten and how much. And then keep in track of how you felt after you've eaten, and also the rest of that day or that evening. How were your bathroom habits the rest of that day, and how was that evening? And then maybe you can start to make some connections. And then also, if you can think of any other soft foods that you might be able to eat or like, that's something you could consider. All right. So this is your trip. This is your healing trip that you're going to start taking and noticing. It's a great trip to be on because it's not only going to heal you from inflammatory bowel disease, but it's going to help prevent from any other disease later on in life. So what you want to start out with is making a list of these foods I've mentioned and simplifying it to the greatest level. Now, some of you might have to be active. You might have to go to work. You might be thinking you need to eat more. If you've never fasted one day on water, or you've never fasted 3 days on juice, the detoxification might not be kind to you, and you might need to stay in bed. And I don't recommend going to work in a situation like that. Some of you might have experience with fasting, and it might be no issue. So you have to determine that and determine what you're going to be doing. So don't say, well, I got to go to work so I can't do a fast because it's going to make me feel unhealthy. No, say, well, I got to fast so I can't go to work because work's going to make me be in an unhealthy environment. So something like that is what you want to do. And some say, well, you don't understand, Paul, I don't look sick so I can't take off from work. No, you have a diagnosed medical condition. And as far as I understand, they're supposed to give you the day off or the week off or how long you need off while you heal in your situation. And if they're not compassionate to your situation, why would you want to work there to begin with, right? But I get it. I get it. It's been many years now, and in talking about all these different things, I just remember, and I'll never forget the time you have that first solid bowel movement. I feel I can talk to you about this here because many of you are going through this right now or have went through it. When you go to the bathroom and you see blood and mucus and diarrhea, and then comes that time where you start going less to the bathroom and you're seeing less blood, but still you're waiting. All of a sudden you get a solid bowel movement. I don't know if there's, it sounds crazy, but I don't know if there's more exciting things in the world to somebody who's spent months or even years not having solid bowel movements. You know, so you can give somebody $1 million lotto surprise ticket or a solid bowel movement. What would they rather have? And I'd say most people that have suffered from inflammatory bowel disease for a decent amount of time would choose the solid bowel movement, all the $1 million, and still be sick. It's not only a physical disease, it's an emotional disease. And we have to learn how to deal with this, and getting knowledge, I believe, is the way, and being inspired to know that we can heal from eating this way. So that's why I did this, and I want to help you help yourself. It's not that difficult or complicated in the foods to eat. So I will answer more questions in the Q&A section. If you have any and you want to contact me, that's fine. And like I said, I do consultations for people that are really looking to work with me to get better. But you don't need me. You can do this on your own. But if you decide, you want to, I'll help you out more. But it's not as complicated as other things. Now, the only thing that might be different is the timing of somebody's healing. People ask, well, how long did it take you? How long did it take you? And the timing of things can vary quite a bit, and that depends on many factors. Don't give up and stay persistent. And write down not only just what you're eating when you have a craving or something, but also write down when you see improvement. Write that down and write the date. Oh, yesterday I went to the bathroom 10 times. Today I went 6 times. Today I went 5 times. Write that down. And even if it goes the other way, oh, I've been doing so great. I've been only going to the bathroom 2 or 3 times a day, or even once a day. But all of a sudden today I started bleeding tremendously, and I've had so many bowel movements. Write it down. Get it on paper. Even if you want to express your emotions and feelings about it, get it on paper, and get to learn yourself and learn your body and learn who you are and your body. Learn your body. Learn your body. And I want to tell you to fill your mind up with people that have been better and healed, but I don't want to scare you if you see somebody that didn't or wasn't, that you're doomed or something, because you're not. You're not. Ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease or any other form of inflammatory bowel disease is a terrible thing to have to live with. That's the bad news. The good news is there's so many worse diseases that can bring fatal results almost immediately or soon so. And even if you're suffering from ulcerative colitis, it's my goal and prayer that you would get better as soon as possible. But it's something that you can live with and literally live. It's not yet diagnosed as a fatal disease. So that's not supposed to bring comfort to any of you. It's just to let you know and be encouraged that you can get better from this. It's not the worst thing out there, even though it feels like the worst thing to us, right? But I see far too many people get themselves in a situation where they developed ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease, and they went on a different path, and they either got their colon taken out, or they started eating animals again, or something like that. And you know, some of them, you've either already saw their interviews or you will see their interviews. Some of them appear to be doing better, some not. But remember, it's more than just diet. You know, it's an investment in your health that you're making. So you want to make sure you're covering all the bases, not just some of them. All right. So you might say, this is going to be good for ulcerative colitis. This is going to be ulcerative colitis. Well, this might not be, but I'll skip that base and go home. No, you got to touch all the bases. And this works. This works. So let's review again. You want the enzymes, digestive enzymes, if you are eating cooked foods, maybe even anything, and they might help. You want to have the soft, well, first you want to try doing just water. Then you want to try doing just juicing, maybe juice fasting for 3 days to 7 days, possibly. Then you want to try, after the juicing, maybe whole soft foods like avocados and bananas. Then maybe you could add some cooked healthy foods like steamed vegetables or soup, or even a potato or a baked potato. You know what, with the potato, you can boil the potato and drink that water. That was really good as well. We spoke about the flaxseed water, which can be helpful, the gel. The aloe vera is another thing you can take internally. It could be considered a food or a supplement. These are the things that are going to help you. And by all means, you'll hear me mention over and over again, you'll see in a supplement video, but take the clay. Take the Redmond clay or any type of bentonite clay out there, and that will be helpful to you. I think I gave you good information. I feel much better now than I did at the beginning of this video, but I'm still, and for my whole life, will be emotional about what I went through because it is a traumatic experience. But I don't focus on those negative experiences often. I just focus on the joyful and thankful of being better and being healed. And I know you can be as well. All right, everybody, put your comments or questions below, and thank you for watching and considering what I'm saying. And I'm here to help you. Thank you.